Friends, once again, as 31st August beckons, we will celebrate Merdeka Day, an auspicious and memorable occasion for all Malaysians. It is time to take stock of our achievements and shortcomings and look forward to the days and months ahead. It is a time for soul searching, where we look into ourselves and ask what Merdeka really means and what we can learn from the past and hope for the future. Merdeka means much more than what the word independence may convey. It is not just a matter of being liberated from the yoke of colonial rule or foreign oppression. If it is only to be replaced by the rule of homegrown oppressors, who may even be more ruthless and self-serving. Merdeka is about being freed from tyranny and oppression in all its guises and setting the nation on a new path to justice, freedom, democracy, and human dignity. Set against this test, many would agree we are still far from there. After more than half a century, we are still left asking whether the fundamental principles in our federal constitution are still in place, or whether the liberties and rights enshrined therein remain intact and are still honored. Indeed, what good is Merdeka if these fundamental constitutional safeguards are violated with impunity? At a time when we should be celebrating our cohesiveness as a multiracial, multi-religious nation that has attained 56 years of independence, we are instead witnessing greater polarization of the communities and increasing divisiveness on religious matters. Rather than alleviating the situation, certain politicians are making it worse by exploiting religious and sensitive issues for their own interests. There is a disconcerting trend of political parties hiring supposed special interest groups and the media to further the agenda of causing division and dissension among the people. Consequently, after 56 years of Merdeka, there is more race-baiting, incitement to religious intolerance and hatred, and generally an increase in seditious speeches and articles published by the print media. The tragedy in this is that not only is there a lack of leadership in ameliorating the situation, but it appears that the government is encouraging this phenomenon to worsen. For example, in spite of appeals and protests from concerned citizens and NGOs, the government has sanctioned the nationwide screening of a movie that will only serve to incite communal animosity, even as its artistic value remains questionable. Instead of greater sense of national consciousness, there is greater sense of race and communal consciousness. The voices of extremism, of hate, of intolerance are drowning the voices of moderation and inclusiveness. The sharp increase in shooting cases and other violent crimes, robberies and snatch thefts is a matter of grave concern. While we must support the police in the efforts to curb and prevent crime, it is also incumbent on them to follow due process. All parties must collectively work out a solution to the problem, but merely getting more punitive laws is not the answer. The matter must be looked at comprehensively. On the issues of governance, transparency and accountability, corruption remains a matter which still plagues us. In this regard, the MACC must perform its task without fear or favor. But we would urge the Attorney General not to obstruct the prosecution of those involved in corruption in higher office. We are not insulated from the economic storms brewing around us. We should rather err on the side of caution than to be caught off guard. We can institute good governance, prudence, and accountability in the management of our public finances and economy. The government is still guilty of economic dishonesty, telling half-truth and giving incomplete statistics to camouflage the excessive spending that the country can no longer afford. Fitch's downgrading with the country's economic prospect should have prompted the government to come clean on the real economic challenges. Instead, it has dismissed it as the work of young analysts who don't listen to government's opinion. Fitch is not the only reputable firm of analysts which had expressed concerns over the growth prospect of our economy and its vulnerability to external shocks. MER had earlier cut 2013's growth projection to 4.8% from 5.6% previously. Bank Negara recently cut its 2013 growth forecast to 4.5 to 5% from 5 to 6% previously. This is in line with the World Bank's latest forecast for 2013 at 5.1 from 5.6% previously. Apart from the double menace of persistently high fiscal deficit and mounting direct and indirect government debt, our current account surplus is at the lowest level since 1997. Because we rely heavily on low value and commodity exports to the global markets, a continuing drag in the global economy casts uncertainties over our growth. Cutting fiscal deficit requires a total commitment to eradicate corruption from government procurement and projects. A 10% saving in procurement and projects easily translates to 20 billion ringgit a year, based on a procurement test and project annual expenditure of 200 billion ringgit within the control of the federal government. The reduction of government debt and cutting of fiscal deficit can only begin earnestly with higher government revenue that comes with higher growth. Unfortunately, Malaysia's growth will be stuck around the 4 to 5% region for a while unless all structural reforms to the economy are rolled out honestly and immediately. On the eve of our 56th Merdeka, economic reforms are no longer a matter of policy contestation or political rhetoric. It is a national imperative that should transcend partisan and ideological boundaries, because we cannot afford to slide back while our neighbors progress unabated. The question of leadership is of paramount importance in steering the nation forward by strengthening our economic fundamentals and making us more competitive. Even more importantly, our leaders must be seen to be in control of the well-being of the nation and the direction it is going. To check the unhealthy trends developing under his watch, he must display firm resolve and moral courage. Notwithstanding our strong protest about the validity of the outcome of GE13, the last elections, we are prepared to put aside our differences for the sake of the nation's well-being and future. In this regard, we believe that it is imperative for the Prime Minister to convene without the slightest delay a round-table meeting between the BN government and Pakatan Rakyat in order to deliberate on the issues raised and formulate a comprehensive solution. Celebrating Merdeka must be about recognizing the good that has been done and not repeating the mistakes of the past. The resolve to do what is good for the nation must be our main concern. The Merdeka spirit is not just about tolerance or compromise. It is about greater understanding, embracing our differences and enhancing our similarities, as well as propelling the nation forward to face the challenges ahead. Terima kasih.